week 3 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few defense DST units I have as sleepers this week. The first one, the Indianapolis Colts. I know the matchup on paper doesn't look all that great, but this Chicago Bear team, they just can't move the football down the field. Caleb Williams is taking big hits. He's been chucking up a couple passes, throwing interceptions. And I think at home, what we've seen in the past couple years, Indianapolis is better at home, their defense, than it is on the road. So the first 2 games, they had nothing to show for. Week 1 versus Houston, 29 points allowed in that game. 4 sacks, a block kick. Week 2 at Green Bay, they didn't do much. 16 points allowed, which isn't horrible, but it was Malik Willis quarterbacking in a fumble recovery. But this week is a streaming option, and if you need defense, they're available in 80% of fantasy leagues. And this Bear team, like I said, they just can't move the football down the field and find the end zone in the early going. The next sleeper is the New York Giants. I know this Giant team, their defense really isn't that good. Last week they had a good matchup on paper and didn't do much about it. But this Cleveland offense really isn't that good as well. Deshaun Watson, he just hasn't done anything the last couple seasons and been a mediocre to poor quarterback 2-3 years now since the Browns got him as Deshaun Watson. The running game over there is pretty decent. Jerome Ford, Deonta Foreman, but the receivers, Amari Cooper's done nothing in the early going, and Jerry Jeudy's been all right. But I think this Giant team, they could be surprising possibly in this one. Week 1 versus Minnesota, 22 points allowed, a sack and into a fumble recovery. In week 2 at Washington, 21 points allowed and 5 sacks. I think they could get some pressure on Deshaun Watson. We know Watson's good for a turnover or 2 nowadays, but this Giant team, you need to be in the deepest of leagues, I believe, to use them as a sleeper. Available in 98% of fantasy leagues. And the final defense DST unit I have as a sleeper this week here is the Detroit Lions. I know on paper the matchup isn't good. Last week, the Lions, they gave up 20 points to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which isn't horrible. And week 1, 20 points to the Los Angeles Rams. So it looks like that 20-point mark they're giving up points is this Detroit Lion team. Week 1 versus the Rams, 20 points allowed, 2 sacks, an INT. In week 2 versus Tampa, 20 points allowed, 5 sacks, and an interception, including 5 sacks from Hutchinson in that game. So this week at Arizona, I expect it to be a shootout, but also I could see one of these defenses making a big play in this ball game. So I'm not saying Detroit is a must-sleeper option, but they are available in 80% of fantasy leagues. Obviously, they got one of the premier pass rushers in all pro football. And also Kyler Murray at times, we know he holds on to the football, makes some mistakes, and takes some big hits. So if you need a sleeper option in the deepest of leagues, I think the Lions could be that this week. So that's a few defense DST units I have as sleepers for week 3 of the fantasy football season.